very much for joining, first of all. This is the second webinar in our autumn series. We're focusing on pricing today, and we'll be focusing on a different topic each week going forward. We'll introduce ourselves very briefly. So I'm Andy, I know many, but not all of you. Background in the travel industry and consulting, and over the last 10 years, exclusively focused on sales and marketing effectiveness to private equity portfolio companies and other organizations. Wayne, do you want to say a quick word?
Thanks, Andy. Hi, Wayne Tessier. I've been in BFG for a few years now, and most of my career has been in sales and commercial leadership, starting in FMCG with Mars, and then moving through into the service sector, both in food service and in coffee service. Nice to see you all.
My name is Marek Zmalovich. Nice to see you all. Some familiar faces and a few new ones, which is really great to see. So my background is in commercial effectiveness, sort of sales and marketing, SFE type work. A mix of consulting, my career, Carney, ZS Associates, which is a sales marketing specialist, very heavily focused on healthcare, and also a couple of tech startups that I've been involved in, from work we did in Cambridge, and another one, the spin-off from Carney, which both had PE and VC funding. So looking forward to an interesting discussion with you all today.
Wayne, in a moment, is going to tee up a couple of questions for you around your pricing challenges and opportunities. And then the three of us will share perspectives to enhance effectiveness. Just a reminder that we focus on a different topic each week. So we've got, this is the first now of a detailed discussion on each of 12 dimensions of sales effectiveness. So please feel free to join us for either the ones that you feel most strongly about, where you're facing a challenge in your organization or as an investor, or indeed feel free to join any of them. So this series is running to the 13th of December and will most likely repeat in the new year. So just a general comment about sales effectiveness and our approach to it. We deliberately take a very broad and holistic approach to sales effectiveness. And in contrast, when you ask others, what does sales effectiveness mean to you? Many times they'll say, well, it's primarily about the sales patter of my rep. And that's really important, of course, but that is just one aspect of competencies, and competencies in turn is just one of our 12 dimensions. And you can have the most brilliant patter, but if you haven't got your pricing nailed, or you're not paying the person in an appropriate way, or you're going after the wrong customers or prospects, then one aspect of competencies on its own is not enough. And as we go through this discussion on pricing, we'll hopefully make it very clear, because it's very clear to us that you cannot look at pricing in isolation. Incentives, performance management, the products and services that you're taking to market all play an integral role in how effective you can be with your pricing. And just briefly, we touched on this last week for those of you that were with us last week. Every one of these dimensions can make a tangible difference to the bottom line of an organization. Pricing is a lever that can have a quicker impact than say culture, and it's one that investors turn to very quickly once they buy an organization. We've never gone into an organization where we haven't seen opportunity to address pricing in some way or another. It's very emotive. People are very quick to shove it in the too difficult box. The classic example is salespeople complaining about price all the time. So there's a lot that can be done, and we enjoy working with our customers on pricing. I'm going to hand over now to Wayne.
Thank you, Andy. So we actually posed this as a poll earlier on in the week. This quote from Warren Buffett here, and he's done all right, hasn't he? So he sees it as a really valuable lever. And actually the results from that poll were mixed. Some people thought it is the absolute most important, and other people thought no, there are clearly some other factors for them. The way we're going to take you through it today is looking at a pricing framework, using a pricing framework. We're going to just give you a few ideas around smart pricing tactics, some well-known and some well-known names in there as well. And then finally, we're going to build some insight or share you some insight that we have around what businesses have told us and linking that to our BFG grade survey. So we'll work through each of those in turn. Before we do that, Andy said this a minute ago, just be good to just get a bit of feedback from the room, really, just to think how broadly people are thinking before we go into talking about a pricing framework. So be good to maybe drop this in the chat, and feel free to give us a voiceover on it as well, if you're not feeling too shy on a Friday afternoon. When you think pricing, what kind of levers are you considering? What kind of levers are you thinking of pulling when you want to affect the pricing dimension in your business? That could be in a B2B business, it could be consumer pricing in a B2C business. Interesting to get your views. Just drop some thoughts in the chat, and I think Marek's going to give us a bit of a voice over the chat. But feel free to shout out any of these as well if they're particular passions.
Absolutely. There aren't that many of us, so your voice will be heard.
Absolutely will.
Wayne, nothing coming through on the chat at the moment. Price elasticity.
Yeah.
Volume, oh, it's certainly coming in thick and fast. So Raf has mentioned price elasticity. Simon has mentioned volume.
Thanks, guys. Price elasticity, yeah. So looking at price elasticity and the effect of it, looking at from that a demand curve, volume, very closely linked to that. Thanks, Simon. What else? Any others? Any other thoughts?
I think from my perspective, it's probably just easy to speak at the moment because I've not used Zoom before ever. So this is the first time.
Go for it, Andrew.
Yeah, I think in terms of understanding the market, understanding the market opportunity in terms of where those niche markets may present, and understanding obviously the customer. So understanding how we service a customer well. Obviously, and I know it came out in terms of account plans, and putting account plans together allows to understand our customers, certainly in the B2B business. Service, quality, I think performance, and some of our products. So we have some premium products. We have some products that are effectively, I'm not saying me too, but command perhaps a slightly lesser price. And as a manufacturer, then we need a mix of all of those. And the plan for us, for me certainly, is the closer we get to our customers, the more we understand our customers, the more we can influence the price up, because service, quality, and performance then outweighs price.
Yeah, so and a better understanding of how we can test it and push it as well. Brilliant. Thanks.
Price will always be an important part of any equation, but it doesn't need to be the first thing that people think about.
No. Thank you. And so other things coming in here, we've got internal capacity. Thanks, Mike. Profit margin, Katrina, Adrian, duration of fixed pricing. Interesting one. And Dave Minton, thanks, Dave. Channel pricing. Yeah, thinking about different channels. Adrian, risk. And Simon, annual price increases, building into contracts, especially SaaS. Yeah, or building in the room to be able to have annual price increases, and value to customer. Great, thank you very much for those. Great, really broad then, and different aspects of pricing. Andy, if you could just move us on to the next slide, please. And now this question, and we've got you all warmed up, which is brill. So when you think about pricing, and it may be in a business historically that you've been in, or it may be a business you're in now, or a challenge you have, if there's one aspect of pricing that you think is probably most neglected, you know, in trying to get the best outcome, what would you say that is? Great to get your thoughts on this one. And some ideas for you, you know, is it around the skill of delivering it? Is it around your visibility of it? Is it around your understanding, deep understanding of it, even within your own business? Just to give you some thoughts. Thanks there, Mike. Marginal cost of service. Yeah. So understanding the costs and the marginal costs. Dave Moscrop, thank you, Dave. Missing year-on-year price increases, opportunities missed for too many years. Yeah. Market changes. Yeah, that external dynamic. Thanks, Simon. Just admitting Keith, Andy.
Great.
Indexation. Thanks, Raf. Retention versus renewal, Adrian. Yes. Yeah, how far to push and when and what impact that might have on renewal. Brilliant. Thank you very much for that. Any others just before we move on? No? That's great. Really, some really good perspectives there. Customer expectations as well. Yeah. Probably do expect it. It's to what degree, I guess, and when and how. So great. Thank you, everyone. Right, Andy, if you could just move us on, please. So one of the ways that we at BFG think about it, and a good way to, and I'll shine a light on this a little bit more in a moment, how it can actually be used to assess, is using a pricing framework to make sure that we're looking at pricing as holistically as possible. And you could break this down so many different ways. We break it down into set, execute, and assure, and not an exhaustive list by any means. But under set, you know, we look at things like costs and understanding of costs, competition, the customer needs by segment, linking to your point, Dave, there around, you know, what might they be by segment or channel. What's the value proposition like? And that's a really broad topic we're going to spend a bit of time on today. Differentiation options. What's the process like? What's the seller incentives like? This is all in set. This is arguably before we've even left the meeting room with what our pricing needs to look like out there. And then when we do leave the meeting room, when we're into execution mode, you know, what is our dialogue around the value proposition like? Not just in terms of the salesperson, but also across the organization. The skills to actually articulate it. The authority levels is something to think about as well. Cadence and signals to the market, and also the systems we have around pricing. And then it's really important to actually bring it back in and actually assure ourselves that we are doing the right things, I guess, and not just looking at the output measures like revenue, but looking at even how we run pricing. So what are the expectations that we have of pricing and pricing actions? What are the roles? What's the reporting capability, and what are the revisions? So really, really broad. And if we think that broadly, we can then actually put a business, if you like, and we do this in BFG. We will take a business in pricing and we will look at it through this framework, and we will literally look at these through interview, through data, and you can then give, if you like, a score, a classic red, amber, green, or yellow if it's on the way. And this just gives us a chance to do one thing really, and that is, if I'm going to focus, potentially can't focus on all of these areas at the same time. So where am I going to put my energy in that of others and colleagues? So having that framework just allows one to look at it in this particular way. Andy, next slide, please. And when we think about prices, I mean, this is kind of standardized theory really, but we clearly want to try and move away, if possible, from this method, which is around a cost-based method of price setting, one where we almost start with the product, and it's a fantastic product. We look at our costs and then we set a price based on those costs. It might be on a margin aspiration, and then we almost determine the value, and then it's about convincing the customer. I guess the other end of the spectrum is the value-based method, which almost flips it on its head. And I really like this. It's the idea that our customers or even our consumers, we're almost thinking, well, what are their needs? And then if we can determine a value against that and almost think, is that almost an intangible or unquantifiable value, it might lead us to be able to achieve an even greater price to match that value. And then we almost look at our costs and product. And I guess a middle ground on that might be a competitive or benchmarking type of method of price setting. So we've got a really nice example of this, and I think we've actually got someone on the call who's got an example of this from their past. Keith, have you joined us on the call? I admitted you. I think if you're still in the call, I think you'd shared a story with Andy on this that we'd love to just share in the group now, if that's okay. Keith, are you with us? If you are, you're on mute. Not. Keith is with us, possibly a connection issue, not sure. Marek, I think you've got a story around this as well.
Well, this is, when we were discussing this slide, a couple of thoughts from my past popped up, and it's all about getting away from being commoditized and just being pigeonholed on price. I mean, whether you're selling bags of cement or cardboard boxes, it's very easy to get commoditized on that. But Tetra Pak thought about its capabilities, and they're not just selling boxes, right? It's easy to sell boxes. They sell financing deals for their customers' equipment, consulting services and process optimization, all sorts of additional services in order to make themselves more valuable in the markets. It's about the value they can provide to customers because they've looked at their customers' needs, what the customers need help with. Another example I mentioned the other day, Wayne, was a TV network selling advertising space. Again, can be commoditized. You know, it's more expensive during prime time, less expensive at other times, but you're pretty much competing on, pounds or dollars per time. But they chatted to, a prospect, which was an airline, and realized that, you know what, we've got a whole load of films in our portfolio. You can have those for flights, in-flight entertainment. We own an American football team. This was an American example. We can provide you a corporate package. And that's how they made a really, really big deal with a national airline. So it's all about looking at what your capabilities are, and critically, what is it that the customers are really lacking? What are their real needs? Thinking more holistically. I think those are the two we discussed, right, Wayne?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Marek. And if we've got time, Keith, we may come back to you at the end to share your anecdote.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Okay.
Yeah, Keith, why don't you go ahead and briefly share the doors example?
So I apologise for the issues with connection, but let me give you a little bit of background. So my name's Keith Dodd. I was fortunate enough to run a door manufacturer that produced probably nearly 60% of the UK doors. So you've all got your product in your house, my office, and all the rest of it. So we produced internal doors. Now, just to give you a little bit of an understanding here is, how do you price a door? Well, that's a really good question. And really the pricing that we drove the profitability of that business significantly by was working out, as the previous gentleman was saying, exactly the same, understanding the value of that door to the customer. And, let me give you some numbers to conceptualize this. A door cost the manufacturer probably about £10, broadly speaking, to make a door. They sell those doors to people like B&Q and the like for somewhere around about £16 to £18. They sell them similar price to people like Barrett's, similar type of money, and they sell those doors on to you as a consumer somewhere around about £26 to £30. So that's the sort of background of the door business. But the real important bit was, how do we take our margin from, which was running at circa 33%, and how do we repackage that deal from being a commodity product? And to give you an idea, in the UK, we were making about 80,000 doors a week. Across my European business, we were making about 1.2 million doors a week. But clearly, you know, pennies on a price is massive in that. So the first thing we did is we went to look at really a close understanding, and I'll give you an example. It's a national house builder. I won't say who it is, but it's a national house builder. And we went and understood what really the drivers for them were, and the real drivers for them were twofold, really. The first one is the cost of the product was rather irrelevant, because when you're buying a house, you don't buy a door at £16, you buy a house at 300, 400,000 pounds. So to be blunt, that wasn't a major driver. What was a major driver was twofold. The first one, the door has to be fitted. So if we could make it easier to fit, we'd save a lot of the cost of actually putting the door in the wall effectively. And the second point was painting the door is really expensive. Painting a door for a national house builder is about £25. So coming back to my number, broadly speaking, they're buying a door at 16 to 20. It cost them another £25 to paint it. It cost me £1.10 to paint a door in the factory, because we spray it as it goes down the production line. So the first comment was, well, we want to supply clearly painted doors, save you £25 to paint it, and we'll charge you for a significant more than the £1.60 to pay it. So what's the benefit to the customer? £25 saving. What do I charge for that? Well, I'm charging somewhere between £10 and £15. So suddenly I've doubled the price of my door. The second conversation really was upselling. So when people are buying a house, they generally don't look that carefully in the doors, but what they do like the idea of having oak doors in their house, because we all like that sort of look. To be really candid, an oak door probably costs them about £20 extra. In an average house in the UK, you have 10 doors. So the cost addition for the cost for the builder is about £200 to put oak doors in your house. Now, those national builders were offering that as a upgrade package at £3,000, because that's what someone's prepared to pay on top of their mortgage for having the door. So again, the real issue here was whether it was a national house builder pricing or whether it was our pricing, was really having a deep understanding of what was the benefit to the customer and what he was prepared to pay for it. And the final piece we actually added another level of value for was we decided that builders generally had a lot of problems with actually getting the doors in the house. And what I mean by that is their logistics, their supply chain is shocking. And building sites are horrendous for keeping anything on and without getting it damaged or stolen. So the next conversation was to use containers, where we would containerize 10 doors in a container, or the number of doors for the house, and we would deliver a package to the builder. That was really profitable for us, because to be really candid, what's the price of not having a door when you need it? It's the price of selling a house. So you can't close the deal on and get your completion certificate from a building inspector unless all the doors are in it. If the doors aren't in it, you don't get a completion certificate. If you don't get a completion certificate, you can't sell the house, because you can't get a mortgage. And mortgages may be agreed, but they are not released until there's a completion certificate on the house. So in that issue, there you are, even after I've done the painting and all the rest of it, my sort of £350 worth of doors is stopping them selling a £350,000, £450,000 house. So if you can solve that problem, you suddenly are significantly more value than the piece of wood in the wall that makes a door. And we did exactly the same again, and we took our price then to £60 a door. Please remember, the price comes back to £10 something making it. So our margins went from 30% to verging 80%.
Well done, Keith.
And everyone was happy.
Yeah.
And I think the comment I would share with the team here is really understand two things. Firstly, what your customers want. We all do that and ask them. The more important one is understand why they want it. Now, the comment that came back to me on the containerized the doors and what have you was we didn't realize how much it cost them for not having a door. And I'll leave you with a little humor and a little funny thought. That same house builder actually used to move doors from one house to another house so they could get a completion certificate. So they would fit the door in one house, wait for the building inspector to approve it and sign it off, and then quickly, while he was in a different house, move that door to an adjacent house. And you got this crazy situation where people were running around building sites with doors and certificates. But the real answer was on-time delivery wasn't just a nice to have. It made the difference of what, 1,000 times the price of the door itself.
Fantastic.
And I think that's the important thing I'd leave with the team here is really understand not just what your people want. They all wanted good delivery, but why they wanted it, because the cost was ridiculous if they didn't get it. Yeah. And when you've got that, you can then start building your plan and your pricing structure and all the rest of it that says, I can offer you X amount of benefit and I will charge you significantly less for it. But in the scope of, in this particular case, the price of a door, the price for the service was massively more than the price of the product.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Great. Thank you, Keith. Fantastic example there, what can be achieved. Thanks for sharing that. And just looking again at you know, the options that we have. I mean, the classic Ford Model T, you can have it as long as you have it in black. And obviously another way to add value, and it sort of builds on what Keith was saying there, is also through, there's an element of customization sometimes. And if we think about Nike ID, you know, if the capability is there to do that with the consumer or with the customer, then fantastic. The same materials are going into producing that customized product, if you like, but the value that can be achieved and the margins can be far greater. Next slide, please, Andy. I think you're going to cover this and talk around how the value proposition is a key part when we set the price.
Just very briefly. So moving from theory to how do we work with our clients in a very pragmatic way? We'll workshop the value proposition with them, and we'll take them through a set of stages, thinking about their customer, thinking about the personas involved. So who are the buyers and what really is going to pique their interest? What are their needs? And then what's our value proposition? Because one of the key challenges to effective pricing, the reason why the price discussion always reverts to cost plus, is because the value proposition isn't understood either by the seller. It's not well enough understood internally, or it's not articulated. It's understood but not articulated, and therefore not understood by the customer. So we're very pragmatic. We workshop this, and it can make a real difference to your ability to push up your pricing. And again, just very quickly, the steps that we take our clients through, again, always starting with the customer needs. Have I really understood those? And to Keith's point, I may think I understand them, but when I peel that onion, actually the need, I could not have foreseen it. I had no idea. It's not about the basic attributes of a door. It's about all kinds of other things. And with that need in mind, how can I shape the proposition to clearly meet that need? And then how do I communicate that in a very compelling way across all my channels, such that the customer is truly excited? And I really think of all things pricing, this is the area that stands in the way of many organizations more than anything else. Back over to you, Wayne.
Thanks, Andy. Yeah, so one of the other things that it's often worth doing, and we do this, you know, with clients, is taking a few thousand rows and columns in Excel with existing pricing across customer base and looking at what might be some of the opportunities. What's the pricing corridor look like on a, this is just one of the many views of it as an XY scatter. Just, how are people, what's the correlation between the volume of what they're buying and the current pricing? And is there an opportunity therefore to be moving price up? So that's often a good way just to understand where there might be an opportunity just to move people towards the top of that corridor, or indeed move the corridor per se. And one of the other things as well then is, no matter whether it's the opportunity to price up is elicited through a piece of research like this, or if it's elicited through the need of the business through, for example, its own costs and natural inflation coming through, there are then different ways to execute that. Next slide, please, Andy. And one of the things that we worked on with one particular client was looking at, customer profit concentration and thinking about what's the tail end of the profitability look like. So which customers fall into that, maybe that top, sorry, the if you like, the tail in terms of profitability. The ones that aren't really contributing anything to the business, in fact, may actually be a cost to the business, particularly if we get beyond marginal cost. And we looked at this with a vending machine supplier. And what we found was, rather than just going with to simplify it, rather than go with a blunt-ended tool of a price increase, or in fact, the risk of just losing the customer, was there an opportunity to actually offer the customer something more than this tired old 60s vending machine and actually upgrade them? Now, this is being extreme to prove the point, but to a beautiful branded, high street kind of coffee offer within their workplace. Now, it may not have been a direct switch from the left to the right there, but the point is, rather than just delivering a price increase to pass on that inflation or move up the pricing and profitability, is there some extra value we can actually add in the process and deliver in the process that by far is covered by the increased price that we're asking for? And this was actually run as an entire project across about 3,000 customers, so not a small piece of work. But it starts from that basis of understanding where is our profitability today and where is our pricing today. Thanks, Andy. One of the other things we do as well is looking at assurance. Is just a very simple governance model, just looking at things like, have we got the right kind of pricing forums in place? Doesn't have to be too fancy, by the way. This could be just meeting on a quarterly basis. Have we got the right reporting? So what are we actually looking at other than just the output measures like revenue and profit? What are the expectations we have of pricing? So what kind of goals have we set ourselves? And then if we've taken actions, made revisions, how is that impacting us and the market and our customers and their profitability and our profitability with them as well? So a basic governance model. So moving at pace, but just coming off that pricing framework now and just looking at a few examples of smart pricing tactics. And these may just resonate with you from a consumer experience, or you may even just think, do you know what? Could there be something in it for our business there? And these are just by no means all of them, but flat rate, a classic eat all you can, consume all you can, often used by the mobile industry. Clearly, the mobile telecoms industry clearly needs a lot of modeling behind it to prove that it's not actually going to cost you as a business more than the value you're getting from the consumer or the customer. The second one, bundling. Lots of different options within here. Mixed bundling, there's pure bundling. The classic one is with software, consumer software, with where it's very, very hard often to buy or nigh on impossible to buy an individual product. Rather, we have to buy into permutations of different products, and seemingly not one of those always suits us. So we have to upgrade to the next one. Freemium, a classic one. I mean, there are lots of brands here that do this brilliantly. LinkedIn, which I'm sure we're all heavily users of, is a great one at then instigating where are the right paywalls and where are the right pay gates. after we're in the freemium version. Lots of CRM packages, etc. use this as well. And one that we may feel passionate about, not necessarily always in a good way, is good old-fashioned Ryanair. Bless them, famous for even joking that surcharging could include using the toilet facilities on board. But having a basic version and then having to upgrade and add on additional features is a good pricing policy if executed in the right way. Changing the metric, really nice one this. Mitchell, about 20 years ago, when there was a lot of Far East competition coming in, very, very much driving down the costs in the market around tyres, they started to look at changing the metric. And rather than actually charge per tyre, realised that that would very quickly just demoralise their margins, dent their margins, and even reduce their market share. What they looked at instead was, well, if our tyres are such great quality and actually they last longer, can we start to charge, and particularly in an enterprise world, so working with larger customers, can we charge per kilometre? So can we make that now the metric of how we charge our customers, not the price of the actual tyre? So just an interesting one that allows you to actually even lead the entire market you're in. And in this case, they were under significant cost pressure that stimulated that if you like, that idea to change. And then dynamic pricing, clearly not applicable to all markets. And if the technology allows, then dynamic pricing can work for, clearly one of the most famous is Uber, but often used in the travel industry as well with hotels and booking sites. So just some ideas there, and there are numerous. And in fact, what we will sometimes do is look at those as part of a pricing project. Next slide, please, Andy. And actually say, right, what's the opportunity here? Are they being used? Could it be relevant? If it was relevant, how could it be actually acted on? And we'll put them through this kind of matrix and lots of other pricing tactics as well, not just the half a dozen we shared there. So, Marek, over to you. Just talk about what businesses have been telling us through the BFG grade survey.
Yeah. I mean, we've been building benchmarks up for over the years as we've been doing these projects, and some of it is through the work that we're doing, our assessments. Some of it is through self-assessments by companies. The pricing consistently gets scored low compared to the other dimensions. It's not the only one, but it is consistently low. If you actually dig into it, what you find, it's quite strongly correlated with the products and services. So if your products and services aren't brilliantly aligned with the market, typically your pricing isn't either. And if products and services are aligned with the market, your pricing tends to be as well. So there's obviously something there around the way you think about what you're taking to market. Interestingly, also correlates quite well with the right customers and prospects. So again, there's a strong alignment here with the way you are looking at your customers and the way you are bringing something to your customers. If you dig into it even more, the stuff that companies typically score low on, price elasticity, discounting controls, and a few other things. But some of those are just examples of the things that the companies have challenges with. But we're always happy to discuss these sort of benchmarks further and the insights you get from them. Thank you,
Marek. One of the things we will aim to do through all these webinars each week is talk to you about some of our, if you like, our favourite reads or favourite pieces of work that give us something to think about as well. A few there that will, as we share the video, you'll be able to catch those. I'm sure you've probably seen those around or indeed read them. Simon Sinek in particular is a favourite, particularly around value proposition. Marek, back to you on the BFG grade.
So related to that, the chart you saw previously. So in case you don't know about this, we have something called a BFG grade, which is a self-assessment survey. We can send you the link. You fill it in. There's about 60 questions across the 12 dimensions. It takes about 20 minutes to do. And what we can provide for you is your scores. And we can spend, we can have a no obligation appreciation call with you, say 45 minutes or so, going through your results. And here's just a little example of, some observations on, a slightly low score on right channels, and some recommendations to start. We're very happy to do this with anyone. Interestingly enough, it's often, just go back 1 second, please.
Sorry.
Andy. Interestingly enough, it's actually great to get different people within your organization to do the survey. I mean, here you've got an example of, a CEO, a CTO, a finance director, various sales directors and sales managers, all doing the survey of their own companies, the same company, right? And all coming up with different scores. This happens a lot. We've done this with a bunch of companies. This happens a lot. And it's a great basis for then following up and really understanding the beliefs within the company from different points of view. Great start of the conversation. Thank you, Andy.
Thanks, Marek.
And just as we're ending, thank you so much, Will, for coming to our pricing webinar. Next week, same time, next Friday, 1 p.m, we'll be doing one on the right customers and prospects. So things like market mapping. Are you going to the right customers for you? Sales underpin, pipeline management. Are you understanding all of that and managing it properly? And as Wayne mentioned already about customer profitability, we'll be delving more into that and how to keep an eye on all of that and optimize that within your organization. So we look forward to seeing you this time next week.
And I'll hand back to Wayne just to close the discussion with any questions that any of you might have, and we're very happy to answer them either on the chat or if you want to come off mute.
So yeah, if you've got any questions, fire them out now, or any comments you're happy to voice, or equally drop something into the chat. Maybe a couple of words that just commenting on how you found today. Simon, thank you. Very useful. Good.
Katrina's given us an E. Is that on a scale of A to E, A to F?
That's tight. I was too quick. Sorry. I put really interesting. Thank you. Really, really enjoyed that.
Raf, thank you as well. Very helpful.
Just a quick one. Do the slides? Sorry, do the slides get emailed out? Do you send a link to the slides?
We can send you a link to the recording.
Right. Okay. Thank you,
Andrew. And Andrew, I'm very happy to put you in touch with Keith as well, because you may
see how you make a £10 door.
Interesting stories with each other.
Great stuff. Thank you. Andy, back to you, I think, for the...
Yeah, so just three things. Put Fridays in your diary, the full schedule of events, so you know which ones you'd like to attend are on our website, betterfastergrowth.com/events. Feel free to take our BFG grade self-assessment and ask colleagues to do so as well. Just ask Marek, Wayne, or I for the link to that. And if you'd like to talk to any or all of us at any point in time about any challenges or opportunities that your organization is thinking through, then we're very happy to chat. So thank you very much, and wish you a dry and pleasant weekend.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.